Yeah, I just realized I'm the only speaker of these two panels who really have can't claim a Hong Kong residency because they competed for how long everybody lived in Hong Kong. I really have to say that I lived the shortest, probably no more than total, adding up, less than 2 years. I spent some time as a visiting scholar at CityU, 2004, a few months, and then many visits. But so I'm a completely outside observer, but as old Chinese sayings say, that sometimes observers from outside see it clearly. So I hope I can see a little bit more clearly. But my theme today is actually the topic. I thought of the title. Again, it's a topic that it's a subject that dear to my heart. I feel very passionately because as someone studied mainland China, not Hong Kong, feel that we've been talking about what China can learn from Hong Kong and what kind of influence Hong Kong may have on China. I think it's on the value system, and if I may borrow an economic term of the value here. But here I refer to to ideas, to the culture, to political cultures, to identity that's been alluded by previous speakers. I have also a Shanghai-Hong Kong story. This is also a true story. Richard Wong mentioned that he was right in the last 10 years because 10 years ago he mentioned that he thought that Shanghai would never replace Hong Kong. I actually had a similar conference, I think it was 2004, in Hong Kong. I was asked by some students from Hong Kong, what do I think of Hong Kong's future? Will Shanghai be replacing Hong Kong? I actually answered possibly, because at that time, I did not see Hong Kong, especially economically and otherwise, I see Hong Kong's stature would probably decline. But I have to say I was wrong, and I should stand corrected because today I'm more confident that Shanghai will not, as Richard Wong said, he was right. I think that Shanghai, and not least in the short term, will replace Hong Kong. The reason is, I think, is the value system that China could learn quite a few lessons from. Now, speaking of values, I think there's, if I understand correctly, that in recent years in Hong Kong itself, there's also a kind of debate about how to maintain and what is a core value here in Hong Kong. Of course, in terms of the value system, what is the core value system, there's somewhat debate. I will come to that. I think that's what the reason for that kind of debate is this increasing, as this quote from Mingbao Weekly in recent, I think it was last year, editorial said that is the increasing integration with the mainland, the kind of quote-unquote generosity from China, from mainland, in terms of investment, in terms of people, tourists, in terms of capital market opportunities, that's really had injected into Hong Kong. That Hong Kong itself to become nervous and sometimes at lost itself what kind of identity Hong Kong could maintain. So that kind of core value debate, which actually I could trace back to the June of 2004, when there was a manifesto by some public intellectuals headed by, including a colleague at CityU, was it Anthony Chong and others, and many of you may even sign up on that. 300 intellectuals signed that manifesto about core values. Ever since then, there was this a debate about what exactly should be or is Hong Kong's core value. And different schools, there are different people obviously offer differently. The government recently, I noticed in 2009, offers its own definition, if I may roughly translate that, is free and open, freedom and openness, hardworking, seeking excellence, creativity, or be brave and creative, and quality of life. That's how Hong Kong government official definition, and also some other government official recently wrote about diversity and tolerance, inclusiveness as part of this core value system. On the other hand, the liberals focus on rule of law, respect for human rights, and of course civil liberty. So you do see this is interesting diversity among how people in Hong Kong view what the core value should be regarded. Now, I'm not going to really debate what it should be. I'm just, because here, again, as an observer, I'm trying to summarize what this debate is about. So let me give you some numbers and of survey shows this exactly what how the at least some numbers of survey shows this data shows. And this interesting one. This is by a third-party, non-partisan foundation called the Whole Persons Foundation. I guess it's an educational foundation. It surveyed in 2009 and 2010, more recent, and they have this core value survey among 20-some thousand people, including a large amount of students, high school students. And the answer is quite interesting. The number one is happy family, and then integrity and credibility. That's very interesting because we'll come back to that. And thirdly is harmonious society. Fourthly is its rule of law, spirit of rule of law. And next to it is respect, freedom, civil liberty. And then it also asks the secondary core values. And also interesting is tolerance and inclusion, benevolence, environmentalism, generosity, respect self-interest as well interest of others. This I think is quite important, and professionalism. So all this are the kind of data that shows how people themselves see the core values should be. Now, Professor Chang just mentioned about the political culture, and also I want to show you a little bit about the political culture aspect, part of this whole value system, and how this compare with that of the Chinese mainlanders. And this is done by my colleague Nathan, Professor Nathan. Some of you might even take in his class. And he has been engaged in this something called the barometer, Asian barometer, which is about trying to see how Asian, different economy, different regions, different countries in Asia views on certain, what their political cultures are. Actually included including Professor Guan Xinji of CityU, Chinese U. So this is a little bit outdated, but it does have some suggestion of how Chinese and mainlanders in Hong Kong share and differ from some values. This one is, I believe, the traditional. I can't see is the traditional values. So if you like traditional values, if you see the two lines of Hong Kong and mainland and China, you don't see a whole lot of difference. There's some minor difference. But the next slide will show you the big difference, and that's on political culture. So that's, I think, it's interesting because here you see the question about judicial independence, separation of power. Hong Kong began to diverge from that of Chinese or mainland Chinese, and then the sort of government accountability and so on. So all on those political issues and how people view government and governance, that you do see that Hong Kong, in fact, Hong Kong almost leads in all aspects, even in Asia, if you look at the rest of Asia. So this give you some sense of how Hong Kong themselves view what core values should be, that identity part of that kind of the importance of what value system are. Now, how do the Chinese, our mainlanders view Hong Kong? I'm a little bit more optimistic, so I want to bring some good news to my friend, old classmate from Berkeley Times, Fernando, because Fernando is much more pessimistic about how mainlanders view Hong Kong. Actually, this is recent. This is a 2010, and this has to do. A second reason I would argue is that on the Hong Kong side, the integration make this nervousness, this worry about how Hong Kong's value will be swamped overwhelmed by the mainlander. Yet, on the other hand, the second, I think, issue is that a second aspect of this is as many mainlanders visit Hong Kong, they actually see Hong Kong by themselves. This is Frank mentioned this. Millions of them every year. So after this opening of 自由行, the free individual visits, I think that played an interesting role. That for them to see how Hong Kong is. So if you look at this on credibility on the Chengxin issue, because a lot of Chinese, 40% Chinese think the Chinese society now lacks of Chengxin. Honesty, integrity. Chengxin is quite interesting. It's hard to translate. Trustworthiness, credibility, honesty, and integrity all translate into Chengxin and China themselves. And they actually, when they ranked all the cities and places, they ranked Hong Kong as third one. After Beijing. I don't know why Beijing is viewed so high. But I believe maybe because, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't born there, but I live in Beijing. But I don't know. This is interesting. And Hong Kong, as you can see, is not quite far from the second place of Shandong, 30%. The fourth one, I believe, is really far down. Is actually below 25%. I forgot which one. And so that actually, it's interesting that how Chinese now view, or mainlanders view Hong Kong. And they do, of course. And then I also want to cite another, this is a sort of public intellectual. This is a heartwarming as for Hong Kongers to read that how some mainlanders see see Hong Kong in a narrative way. And this one, rough translation is, for those who don't read Chinese, is Hong Kong's, the value of Hong Kong to the mainland is a demonstration effect. And this kind of the demonstration effect does not only include those in economics, but also in culture and value systems. The mainland needs a model of human beings, of human models. In the past, in the traditional Chinese society, the masses always learned from the gentry, sort of gentry class served as the model for the masses, and so on. Now, as the traditional value disappearing in China, now everybody only looks to money. So we really need this as a producer of a documentary, Tian Chuan says, we now really need some sort of model. Where do they find that? I think, again, I want to cite another, Fernando look at the Baidu, also I look at Baidu and others, but I see the other, sort of half full kind of picture. And I actually quite moving some of the stories written by this is in the blog space. This written by a visitor, recent visitor, obviously a frequent visitor of Hong Kong, by a mainlander. He said basically told the three stories: in restaurant, in buying, purchasing goods at a department store, and taking taxi. In all three instances, he felt that how Hong Kongers keep that kind of credibility and honesty. They don't cheat, they don't try to skirt, and they actually, show. And in this three story, and this is what he said. I want to translate what he said. It says, this three small stories. This is only three small stories, but I think it tells the spirit of a city. I don't know whether our material sort of development has overcome Hong Kong, has superseded Hong Kong. But I think the city of Hong Kong's soft power has certainly demands our admiration, ultimate admiration. And he said, in our own society, looking around, I can only look up for the sky, to the stars. Basically say, we don't see that in our society. We have to look up. So let me come to the mainland side, that why this kind of value system is, that's why I said is I feel very passionate. Because I live in Beijing for last couple of years, and I study Chinese politics. I see China nowadays, you do have a very well-developed materialism. Material, development probably is now really has 30 years. Is the tremendous progress, and commercialism and self-interest, even including self-interest, private interest, is well-developed. I made this similar remark in Beijing when I talked to return students in the Omei Tongxue. I said, look, now what I think China is, it's a soul. I think it needs a value system that China is still struggling to find. Because everything is about money. It's about, kind of everything goes. The spirit of everything goes is there. It's, sort of end justifies means. It really needs something of a civic virtue, the kind of public realm, the kind of public interest. That, I think, China simply doesn't have. And that, I think, they could look to Hong Kong. I don't think Hong Kong is, has everything that China should learn from. But certainly, because so close, because so many mainlanders visit China, as you said, those who spend money here, they'll buy goods, they come to Hong Kong, they visit, even they deliver babies here. They could see what Hong Kong's system is like and what Hong Kong's value system is like. And let me just quickly summarize what this kind of struggle, what I said, China's struggle about this moral bearing that China trying to find. I think China is trying to find that moral bearing. This recent case of this Confucius, let me give this real example of how this interesting debate among Chinese public intellectuals about what exactly China's spirit should be. This 中国精神. Everybody talk about this. Some people say nationalism, but I agree with Frank. Is nationalism can only go so far, and it's a double-edged sword. And, nobody kind of want to push that at the very top. So what else is? So you have the three schools that are struggling to find it. You have those who wanted to erect a Confucius statue on the Tiananmen Square, and then they did it for only 100 days. Really exactly 100 days, and I took it off. It really is amazing how, and then it's interesting after this being erected in Tiananmen Square, the fact that both the left, the traditional Maoist left, and the liberal rights criticize it. Because the Maoist right say, what is this? Our revolution, communist revolution, is Mao. When Mao led the revolution, it's iconoclastic. It's anti-Confucius, it's anti-tradition. How come these people want to have that back? So that's from the left. And then from the right say, what is the Chineseness? What is this so-called the Chinese uniqueness? Why can we learn from more universal value system and so on, so forth. So, and then indeed after about 100 days, it was took down. So that really indicates that struggle is still going on, talking about defining China's own identity, mainland's own PRC own identity. I think China is still struggling. And I don't want to get into what it should be. All right? I'm just trying to make the point that Hong Kong could play a major role in this search, in China's search for its own identity, its own soul. And let me end by, again, using a quote this is also by Tian Chuan. It's, again, because it's referring to the Shanghai and Hong Kong and competition. And this one says it's very interesting. I want to translate that. Says, well, many people compare Hong Kong with Shanghai. If really some people think that Shanghai is same as Hong Kong, that is the joke of the, that's ultimate joke. Because I think after 60 years of wear and tear, Shanghai cannot compete with Hong Kong. We're almost not in the same, they can't compete with Hong Kong. They cannot. Hong Kong is world's Hong Kong. It's the pilot of the mainland, not only in the economy, but also in value system and political system. So I hope this guy, Tian Chuan said, Hong Kong's 内地化, mainlandization will be slower than Hong Kong's own mainlanders, will be slower than the mainland's own Hong Kongization. So let me end here. So I think this gave us hope.